I know who killed Bunny Folger. Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca. If you haven't been here before, welcome. So today's video is all about the 8th episode of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building. Episode 8 is called Hello Darkness, as in Hello Darkness My Old Friend, the song by Simon and Garfunkel. Ironically, we sang that song in my choir as like an a cappella piece, so know it really well, love it. So if you have not watched up to season 2 episode 8 of Only Murders in the Building, then do not watch this video. We are going to be talking about clues and spoilers, and I don't want to spoil anything for you. Also, if you haven't checked out my other videos about Hulu's Only Murders in the Building, I will link them up here. I have them all in one place so you can check them out and watch them in order, all the way from season 1 up until season 2 episode 8. So definitely go check that out, because I talk about clues throughout the season that are still relevant, and if you don't watch those, you won't be fully caught up to this video. Also, if you like these videos, then make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season. This is obviously episode 8, and we only have 2 more episodes after this, so please subscribe, help me get to 1,000. We are over 700 at this point. It's so exciting. Thank you so much to all of you who have subscribed. Also, I am planning a Q&A video, so if you guys have any questions about how I make these videos, Only Murders in the Building, my preferences on the show, how I come up with my theories about me and my personal life, then last call, drop them down in the comments below. I would love to answer your questions so you can get to know me a little bit better. And speaking of getting to know me a little better, definitely go follow me on Instagram. I will put the link down below and also like pop it over here somewhere. And with all of that out of the way, let's get into season 2 episode 8 of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building. Also, special for this episode, because I'm trying to be the sleuthiest sleuth around, I had to wear my The Mystery Machine Scooby Gang t-shirt. I'm trying to emulate the Scooby Gang and figure out who the murderer is. Can you tell I'm just a mystery fan? Mystery books, mystery TV shows, mystery movies. We love it all over here. Episode 8, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is that the episode is from Marv's point of view. You know that I love our man Marv. He is a super fan. He's been showing up in a lot of episodes. I've had a lot of theories about him in past videos. And yeah, I'm a Marv fan, so excited to hear his point of view. We know he's kind of a kooky guy. Next, we hear Marv talking about the 6th Avenue slasher and about how that was someone who was never caught. It was years ago, and they went around and were killing people on quote-unquote 6th Ave. But then Marv goes on to say that they were also killing people on 7th, 8th, Broadway, etc., etc., and says that the only people who were actually safe from the 6th Ave slasher seemed to be the people on 3rd Ave. So that's another call out to the number 3 as well as the number 6. That's just an interesting little tidbit. I also looked up the 6th Ave slasher, and I didn't find any real news stories. Sometimes when they're talking about murders like the Son of Sam killing, those were real. As far as I can tell, 6th Avenue slasher is not something real. It is just something that they made up. So Marv is determined to stick with the Only Murders trio because the other superfans are kind of ready to give up on them, saying that they don't have a lot of substance in their podcast recently and that they don't think that they're going to figure it out. And Marv is like, I'm an Omit B day oneer and also for life. I'm not a Fairweather fan like you all, so I will be sticking around. And this is one of the first times that we see Marv's dedication to the group over the other superfans who are kind of ready to jump ship. And I think that's really interesting and important. Like, he clearly is dedicated to this podcast to the end of his days. He loves Omit B. So I think that that is really important. And we see a little like violent moment where Marv is like, I'm so angry at you guys, and he like stabs his fork violently into his food and gets up to walk over to his fave trio. I think that's just a nod to the fact that like maybe the other superfans aren't as invested as Marv is, and therefore probably aren't the murderers. So like I was saying, Marv is obsessed with this serial killer, the 6th Avenue killer, and keeps saying that the guy was never caught, and that his theory is that that is actually the murderer of Bunny. And he goes on to say that the 6th Avenue killer had a type, and it was older women and younger women and all men. So Over and over again, we're kind of hearing that this 6th Avenue killer actually didn't have any type at all and was very broad. But to Marv's point, he's like, I think that this person who was never caught, who committed all these crimes, you know, years ago, is back and is at the Arconia and is the one who killed Bunny. Now, I don't think that this is true. Like, I don't think that this is going to come out to be like, oh my gosh, the 6th Avenue killer actually did do it. But Marv is very interested in this serial killer, and I think that's more the point, is that Marv is obsessed with this serial killer. It makes him come off like really creepy, creepier than he already has come off. So then Marv goes on to narrate that there is nothing like a crisis to bring New Yorkers together. And so I said, if he's the murderer, maybe that's what he thinks he's doing. He thinks he's bringing people together. He thinks that he's uniting New Yorkers everywhere. Maybe uniting our trio, bringing our trio together, convincing them to do a second season, basically forcing them to do a second season. So that was just an interesting thing that he said that seemed a little suspicious to me. We enter the Arconia. It is obviously a blackout. Lester is answering the phone and Ursula is trying to get everyone to relax. And so everyone is annoyed in the building because there's a blackout. They want to get to their apartments. They want to take the elevator. It's obviously not working. And then we hear that Frank lives on the 8th floor, so another callback to the number 8. And Nina calls down and says that she wants Lester to bring her package to the 14th floor where she lives. So apparently Nina lives on the 14th floor where Charles lives. And I'm not 100% sure if we knew that before, but it's another callback to like Bunny saying 14 something. And now we know that Nina lives on the 14th floor, so could Bunny have been talking about Nina or Nina's apartment or Nina's husband? We also see that there is a new guy, I think his name is Jonathan, kind of hanging around, and Howard clearly has a crush on him, and Dr. Grover Stanley is encouraging Howard to go talk to this guy because he will never change his life and break out of his shell if he doesn't push himself. And basically, like, Dr. Grover Stanley is like, if you stay in this comfort zone, you're never really going to be happy. So Howard, you know, eventually gets up the guts to say something, and so does Jonathan. They kind of have a moment. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the next thing I want to talk about is that our fave trio are racing up the stairs. Actually, they're leisurely strolling up the stairs. And okay, in fairness, 2 of them are, you know, elderly men, so I get that they can't race as fast as racing could go, but they're really taking their time, especially considering they're worried about Lucy being alone in the dark in Charles's apartment when there's a murderer on the loose. So yeah, they were going pretty slow, too slow for my liking. And so anyway, Oliver's finally like, I can't go on, and they're like, Oliver, drop the dips. You're carrying like 50 pounds of dips up the stairs. That's why you're having such a hard time. And so he drops the dips and he turns to them and he says, stay alive, no matter what occurs, I will find you. And immediately I was like, this is a movie quote. What movie is this from? And it is from The Last of the Mohicans. And although I've never seen this movie before, I did look up the summary, but I feel like I didn't get as good of an idea about the movie as if I had watched it. So if any of you have seen The Last of the Mohicans, comment down below and tell me what it's about. But as far as I could grasp from a short synopsis, it is basically a movie about a war breaking out between the British, the French, the colonies, and indigenous people in North America. And the thing that I noticed the most from the synopsis is 2 things. One is that there is a younger sister named Alice in the movie, and it doesn't seem like they have a huge part, but whenever I see a name call out like that, it really like gets my gears spinning. And next we have someone named Duncan Howard. I think maybe Colonel Duncan Howard, but that's another name that is obviously in Only Murders in the Building, Howard. So the names Alice and Howard are both mentioned in this movie, and they both die at the end, I believe. But the point being that I think it's suspicious that those 2 names were the names that were mentioned, and you know that Only Murders in the Building never does anything unintentionally. So either they intentionally mentioned this movie to throw us off, or they intentionally mentioned it because those names are important. And this is episode 8. We've been talking about the number 8 coming up a lot throughout the season. So what if episode 8 is the key to finding the killer? But anyway, that is very suspicious, makes me suspicious of Howard and Alice. So next we are in Nina's apartment. Lester has dragged up her packages, and Nina actually does have a baby because we hear it crying and we see all the baby stuff. So for anyone who thought maybe Nina was faking her pregnancy, it seems like she really does have a child. Next, we see this like scary moment where Lucy is in Charles's apartment all by herself. It's dark and someone is pounding on the door, and we soon realize that this is a person in a jumpsuit and combat boots who has used a crowbar to break into Charles's apartment. And this person has walked through that door and seems to be after Lucy. They drop the crowbar, they walk in, and they have a flashlight and a knife. Flashlight in the right hand, knife in the left hand. So that's interesting. And a couple of things that I wanted to mention about this is that I don't feel like this is the same person that Lucy saw in the art catacombs the night that Bunny was murdered. I was kind of doing a comparison, and obviously everything is dark and moving and kind of hard to see, which is, you know, obviously intentional. But they look like they have different body types. The person who Lucy saw in the art catacombs seemed to be a little shorter, maybe a little wider, and moved in a different way. This kind of like quick walking, and then this like pivot turn that they did that was almost like theatrical in a way. And the person that breaks into Charles's apartment in this episode seems to be very tall, long, lean. And the other thing I noticed, not that this is a huge difference, but the gloves seem to be different. The gloves on the person that Lucy saw in the art catacombs like went up to their elbows, and they were also wearing these scrubs over their shoes to kind of like, I guess, protect them if there was any like blood splatter. The person that is breaking into Charles's apartment has gloves that are shorter, or at least underneath their jumpsuit, and is not wearing those scrubs over their shoes. And they also have a different type of flashlight. This flashlight is like bigger and bulkier. The flashlight that the person had in the art catacombs was thinner and longer. Some small differences that make me think that maybe they're not the same person. The other question that comes from this person breaking into Charles's apartment is this person after Lucy, or is this person after Charles? Why did they break into this apartment? And the other thing that I think is important to note is that they broke into the apartment. They had to use a crowbar. They followed Lucy into the bathroom where she closed the door, and she left the door to the art catacombs open. I feel like if this person had been the same person who murdered Bunny, they would have used the art catacombs. They would never have broken into an apartment. They wouldn't have needed to. They could have easily surprised her by coming in through the bathroom, through the art catacombs there, and doing it that way. So it doesn't really make sense that they would have to break through his door in order to get in. And yes, they did have a flashlight, so you might be thinking, well, they had a flashlight, they had to know about the art catacombs, but it was a blackout. So it's very possible that they had a flashlight just because they had a flashlight, because of the blackout, and they had no idea about the art catacombs until they followed Lucy into the bathroom and saw that this door was open and followed her in. This is not the same person who killed Bunny. This is not the same person who Lucy saw in the art catacombs. This is someone different. So next we hear Lester talking to Nina, and he says that he is really hurting because of, you know, Bunny's death, and he feels slightly responsible because the person who killed Bunny must have walked right past him, because he is obviously the doorman. He sees everyone come and go, but this implies something important. If someone unusual had come into the building looking all funky, Lester would have noticed. He would have noticed this weird looking person, which makes me think that the person who killed Bunny lives in the Arconia, because Lester wouldn't have taken notice to someone who lives in the Arconia walking past him and going inside. It wouldn't have been anything that would have surprised him. And also it's possible that maybe the person who killed Bunny didn't walk past him. Maybe they already lived in the building. They didn't need to go through the front door. They were in their apartment. So next we hear Jonathan and Howard. They're kind of mingling, hanging out in Howard's apartment, and they sing The Sounds of Silence, and Howard yodels while Jonathan, who is a choir boy on Broadway, sings. We also hear this new man, Jonathan, sneeze. He's apparently very allergic to cats, I think he says he's like deathly allergic. That's suspicious because I've never heard of anyone who's deathly allergic to cats, but I'm sure that there's probably people out there. I've just never heard of that before. That's just interesting because we heard this other person sneeze, so we're like, is Jonathan the killer? Was Jonathan in our catacombs? I find that highly unlikely because we literally just met him in episode 8. So next we see our fave trio racing through the catacombs. We also see that we think that the person is following them, but then also another person shows up. They're wearing a gas mask and a blue suit rather than a jumpsuit, and pretty quickly we figure out that this is Marv. Mabel knocks him over with the dips, and Marv basically says that he's not the killer, that he is not the one who killed Bunny, but that he wanted to help out. And he kind of says this monologue like, I wanted to be a part of the podcast, I wanted to help out, I wanted recognition, I wanted an episode where I was featured, I wanted my daughter to like maybe be proud of me or like just forgive me. So we're kind of feeling bad for Marv at this point, and I'm feeling like he's not the killer just because they've kind of called him out at this point, and he's like, no, I swear I'm not. And he does mention that he's been trying to help them. He wants to help them in order to be included. So I think that is a big clue, especially because he seems to know the catacombs pretty well, as he does mold work in the building, which we've heard multiple times. Next, we kind of cut to downstairs. They're all in the lobby. It's the end of the episode, and they mention that the person that they saw tonight, the person that they saw on the tape from the Pickle Diner, and the person that Lucy saw in their catacombs might not all be the same person. So they've planted this idea that maybe these are all different people, and I think that that is highly likely. And the last thing that we learn is that Detective Krebs really seems to be Glitter Guy. Mabel catches that he's got glitter behind his ear because glitter is impossible to get rid of, and we also see someone brush past him and knock his arm, and he's like, ow, ooh, sore. So yeah, we are pretty sure that Detective Krebs is Glitter Guy and that he has been following Mabel. So now I want to talk about my theories, because last season in episode 9 it was confirmed that Jan was the murderer. So I have a feeling that this season in episode 9 it's possible that we figure out who the murderer is. And I think we should just get it all out there before the episode airs. First, Krebs is Glitter Guy. I know that people still might not think that, but we're like 99% sure that Krebs is Glitter Guy. And I believe that he's Glitter Guy because he's been trying to get evidence from the trio so that he can break the case before they do. He has mentioned that he wants a big break and that he doesn't want them to ruin it. He's basically told them to stop doing the podcast and like lay off. And we have also information from last season that suggests that there's someone in the police force who is involved with the Jan murders who didn't submit the Tim Kono phone and didn't submit the toxicology report, which would have declared Tim Kono's suicide to be a murder. So I'm thinking that it's very possible that Krebs has something to do with that too. So he's trying to break the case. That's why he texted them and stole the matchbook from Mabel. But the one question that I do have left over is, why would Krebs text them to get out of the building the night of the murder? How did he know it was going down? Did he pay someone to set it up so that he could solve the case? But then the evidence went missing. So I don't know why he texted them that night to say get out of the building. So like I was saying, I feel like Krebs had some relationship with Jan because, like I just said, toxicology reports were not submitted last season. The phone was never put into the system. And this person went after Lucy. So I think that Krebs is Glitter Guy and also is the person in this episode who breaks into Charles's apartment and goes after Lucy. And here's why. I think that Krebs had some sort of relationship with Jan, and after Charles broke up with Jan, Jan wanted to take away something that Charles loved, just like Charles took away the thing that she loved, himself, because he broke up with her. So Jan has these connections with the police, which would be why the toxicology report was never submitted, and Krebs is that connection. And Jan basically tells him, or maybe he is a jilted lover that is obsessed with Jan, but either way he decides, you know, you hurt Jan, I'm gonna hurt you, and the best way I know how to do that is to go after your stepdaughter-esque person, so I'm gonna go after Lucy. It makes sense that the person who broke into Charles's apartment is someone who is not living in the building because they didn't have access to keys, they didn't know about the catacombs, so this person broke in with a crowbar, and I think that person was Kreps, an outsider. Next, I think that Marv has been delivering evidence to the trio by dropping stuff off in their apartments. And I think that he mentions that he's been wanting to help with the podcast and he wants to be a part of it, and I think he believes he's helping and just wants them to be successful. And so he has been going around taking the evidence that he finds and dropping it in their apartments. And they think that it's the killer trying to frame them, but it's really just Marv trying to help them out. And they say if the murderer was trying to frame them, why wouldn't the police show up at their door? And I think that's why. I don't think that Marv is trying to frame them. I think that he's trying to help them. He thinks he's doing a good job, but in reality, he is freaking them out. Next, I think that the person meeting with Bunny was either Alice or Marv, because I've had a theory in past videos, and you can go check them out if you want to, that Marv might be Alice's father, the jilted relationship that he's trying to fix. So maybe he's trying to get the painting from Bunny so that he can give it to Alice, or Alice is trying to get the painting from Bunny just because she is an artist and wants the painting. She's interested in it. So either way, they realize that they are not going to be able to get the painting from Bunny, either one of them, and they decide that they are going to have to steal the painting. I think it would make sense that this was Marv, because then he could go through the art catacombs, which he's clearly, well aware of, and go to Bunny's apartment and try and steal the painting. He didn't have any intentions of killing her, but they were at the wrong place at the wrong time and accidentally dropped the matchbook from when they were meeting Bunny at the Pickle Diner, and Mabel found it and thinks that they have something to do with the murder when they don't. Maybe they stumbled across it. Maybe they popped their head up into Mabel's apartment only to see the scene and the blood and freak out and kind of race back away. But either way, I think that the painting being stolen is separate from the murder. I think that the painting was one thing, someone was trying to steal the painting, and that is why the person in the Pickle Diner looks suspicious. But it doesn't make sense that the matchbook would have fingerprints on it if that person is the same as the murderer. The murderer wore elbow-length gloves to kill Bunny. So the fact that the matchbook has a fingerprint on it just seems unlikely that it would be the murderer who left it there, because that's really sloppy considering they literally came in elbow-length gloves, a mask, and with shoe covers, so that they didn't track blood anywhere. So I find it much more likely that the matchbook and the fingerprint belong to somebody else, because that would be really sloppy to then remove your elbow-length gloves and grab the matchbook and it has blood on it. It just doesn't make sense that that would be the same person. So I think one person stumbled upon the murder and left the matchbook, but was really trying to steal the painting, and I think the killer is someone completely different. The next thing is I believe that Lucy saw Howard in the passageways after he had killed Bunny, and I think that he did it because he was lonely and also played a part in the murders that Jan was participating in, because I really believe that his handwriting is a match to one of the suicide notes. So I think that he was in it with Jan. That was how Evelyn was present in Tim's apartment after he was murdered, because Evelyn licked up some of Tim's blood and ended up dying from the poison. So I think that Howard was there in some capacity, helping Jan, working with her. We also know that in season 1, episode 8, Jan accuses Howard over and over again of being the murderer, and that might be because she was trying to get him to take the fall for something that they did together. So I just think that Howard was involved last season. I think that he doesn't really faint at the sight of blood. We hear Charles mention in the episode where Howard faints that he thinks that he was acting, and I think he was acting too. So I don't think Howard faints at the sight of blood, and I think he is the murderer of Bunny and was a part of the murder last season with Jan. The other theory that I kind of have going is that possibly Howard was Bunny's estranged son. She gave him up for whatever reason, and he feels lonely because he doesn't have any family or friends. He only has his cats, and so he found his way into the Arconia and found his mother Bunny, and she maybe wasn't interested in reconnecting or didn't know that he was her son, and so he, feeling jilted and hurt, decided to take it out on her by murdering her. He wanted revenge. He didn't understand why he would have been given up, and this kind of connects to the Son of Sam murders, because the Son of Sam was given up by his mother. So is it possible that This continues the string of familial relationships that we've been seeing: Charles and his dad, Oliver and Will, Teddy and Theo, and now possibly Howard and Bunny. Is it possible that this is another mother-child or father-child relationship, and that this is what the season has been leading up to? I think that would be really interesting. But either way, I really think that Howard is the murderer. Like I said, the name Howard was mentioned in The Last Mohican, and I think that's because he is a part of this. He is the murderer. He does have something to do with it. And so yeah, I think Howard is the most suspicious. Obviously, Howard was accounted for this episode and was not the one chasing Lucy because he was, you know, flirting it up with Jonathan. But I truly think that Howard is the murderer. He did it. So that is my theory, my best guess, episode 8, season 2, and I am just so excited to finish the series out. I will see you for episode 9. If you liked this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, all those YouTube things. Make sure to comment down below if you have any questions for the Q&A, any theories, just want to chit chat. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time with the next episode of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building, episode 9. Bye!